Hi, this is Carl Dobrowolski with Missions Together. And we've just concluded the Missions Together gathering on November the 2nd. And Nicole Riccini of Apartment Life was one of the exhibitors. We're pleased to have her with us today. And we're going to be speaking about embracing the heart of community, loving your neighbor through community events and acts of care. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Well, Nicole, we know that there are two great commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as you would yourself. So loving one's neighbor is a strategic act of love and obedience. And even more so when we have practical ways of doing so. And you recommend loving your neighbor through community events and acts of care. Please unpack that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Apartment life about 25 years ago was trying to figure out how to get more involved into apartment communities.
Mm.
You have all the soliciting and just different things that you can and cannot do. And we were able to go in and connect with one of the property managers, and she just shared, "Hey, would you like to host an event for us? Like, these are some ways that you can kind of get involved." And so we had a team that started doing that. They started hosting community events. They would ask the manager, "Hey, is there anyone who just needs, some extra loving care? Maybe it was a death in the family and we could get a meal together for them, or maybe it was a brand new baby and we could just go and celebrate that." And so over the last 25 years, this program has been developed where we place missionaries into apartment communities, and they do just that. They get to host these community events where residents get to come out and be a part of it. And you're breaking bread with your neighbor. You're organically and naturally getting to know your neighbor first, and then obviously care for them with these acts of cares. And you know this, what's important to you, you share about. So, right, our faith becomes something that is, central to who we are. And that's just a natural conversation that we're able to have with our neighbors. And in that process, invite them to be a part of the church with us, or come and serve in the community if your church is already active in that community. And really, not just that coordinator doing that, but opening up the opportunity for your whole congregation to have the opportunity to come and serve at these events as well.
It's really effective, particularly when you've got food, you've
Hmm.
got cordiality, hospitality, service going on. When you have those elements and sprinkled with prayer, it's hard to believe that missions is not occurring in that midst. Where there is love, missions typically occurs. Share some success stories. I was part of one. Um, Diego and Charlotte, who were as part of your ministry. I was part of one. There was a lot of fun, a lot of joy. But share some stories, if you
Yeah.
will. Hmm.
Absolutely. One of the fun things is most of our corporate staff for Apartment Life, we all started as missionaries on an apartment community, which we call our mission field. So, my husband and I got to serve in Raleigh 2020 to 2022, and hosted one event. And then, as we all know, COVID came that March. And so, really had to think quickly on our feet. But one of the things that we noticed was how important community was during that time. So, we continue to do drop off events, we continue to get creative and do virtual events. We did a planting event where we would drop off the seeds and all the supplies, and then everyone jumped online, and the engagement through that event was just so special, because you could just tell people were craving community. And that opened up the opportunity for us to follow up with people afterwards, ask how their plant was doing, and then lean in and see, well, is there anything else that we can, grab you from the store while we're going out? But through the process, I think one of our best story was we had a couple, John and Dom, who they were not involved in church, had different backgrounds of how they kind of grew up, but was one of those couples that, how the Lord just continues to put people in front of you. You go out to your car and they're there, you're checking your mail and they're there. And so we were able to invite them over, just for a meal. We actually decorated gingerbread houses during that time, and it just opened up an opportunity of, like, why do you go to church so much? Because it was a Saturday night. And I'm like, y'all don't have to go home. I'm going to bed. We have church in the morning. We serve. And it ended up being a great opportunity for us to kind of just share more of our faith. And Carl, I know you've been in ministry for a long time. You know, the heart is more receptive when someone's coming to you to ask questions versus when you're just trying to like pound, hey, this is why I do this, like you should do this. And so it was really these events for about 6 months of us planting seed, showing up in people's life, asking how they're doing, very organic and naturally, that has led to this opportunity for this question to come up. Their time to kind of like lean into their faith. And so long story short, they just changed their whole schedule. They were working on Sundays and decided, hey, like there's something missing. They started coming to church with us. They rearranged their church schedule. And even when they moved from that apartment, the one of the things that was important when they got to their new city was to find a local church and just kind of walk through, ask for prayer when they were going through these harder things. So you literally see the life change that's happening right in front of your eyes. And I'm in the Bible Belt, and sometimes I forget that not everyone has that opportunity to know Jesus. Not everyone has a friend or a neighbor that's reaching out to them. And I think we all have a part to play, right? And there are people that the Lord's going to place directly in your path that you are responsible of reaching out and connecting with. And I think in apartment life, living beside your neighbors, the Lord makes that very clear who those people are.
We make things very complicated sometimes, and
Hmm.
I think we build things up in our minds until it becomes so seemingly insurmountable. But
Hmm.
as you were talking, it's clear, just planting little seeds of love and then watering it, checking in, leaning into a people with love. And then, if one was ambitious, creating an event for your neighbors goes a long, long way
Right.
in a real mission field,
Hmm.
particularly in the event that I attended. I saw many who were out of they were not Native Americans. This is an opportunity in terms of those who are residing in the States. It's an opportunity to build bridges with different cultures, right?
100%. And you lean in and learn more about their culture, and it opens up. We had a story last year about a team that felt like the Lord was calling them overseas to serve in missions within like the Korean culture. And so while they were fundraising and waiting, they got placed with an apartment life. They're like, this is a good training field for us to get started. Um, and one of the things that was so cool that they didn't know about this when they applied was the community they got placed with had a high population of Korean people, and they had already started going to like a Christian church that had a Korean pastor. Just really like that call in their life to that people group was so strong, and they just started loving their neighbors. And last Christmas, they invited 29 of their neighbors to come to church with them, not knowing what they were going to say. And 29 accepted Christ. And it was like
Oh, thank the Lord.
because of that Korean pastor,
Thank the
like
Lord.
knowing the Korean culture, knew how to like just take the gospel in such a way to present it to the people and the culture group that he has. And so we ended up was following up and having a conversation. They're like, we thought the Lord was given us this purpose to go overseas, but really it was just the passion of this is the group of people that the Lord's called us to love. And there are people right here in our cities and our neighbors for us to do that. And so it's just really, really cool that you have no idea what you're showing up. And I just feel like every community that we place coordinators, we hear stories of like, this is the community we were supposed to be at because of the people that we've been able to be a part of their lives.
And all someone really needs to be, if they want to be involved with apartment life, which what a unique way
Mhm.
of reaching a community, because you're right there, you get trained, but really the prerequisite is, I imagine, to have a heart of love, be willing to extend oneself, be sociable, be interested,
Yeah.
right? And you would train them to do
Hmm.
the rest. So
Absolutely.
if someone feels called to do this, how do they reach out to you? Tell us the website and anything else you wish to tell us to just enhance that desire and passion of someone that might be listening to us today.
Yeah, and I would say this is for anyone who's called to live on mission, right? So, we have a lot of people who are called to certain areas. They have their job, and they're like, "Man, I really do feel like to live on mission, but I'm not called overseas." And so, this is missionary work in your city. And so, yeah, you love people, love your Lord, know the gospel, and then what we want to do is really keep you within 10 miles of your local church because this all started.
Great.
Is to get the people outside of the four walls of the church to actually be serving in the community. So that's kind of like how we decide, what would be the best community for you to serve in. And we want you to be able to invite people to church, right? So if you're driving 45 minutes to an hour to get to church, your neighbor may not do that. And so we want
Mm.
to get you as close as possible. But they can go and check out the website, which is apartmentlife.org. They can reach out to me directly, Nicole Ricchini at apartmentlife.org, and I would love to get them connected. Again, we're over the whole US. We have one in Canada right now and a couple in the UK, but we're on 680 communities just in the US. And so
Extraordinary.
especially a lot of the bigger cities, and then we're starting to, span out in other areas of the states as well. But yeah, I would say go to that website, check it out, reach out to me. I'll connect them to the right person. And just everyone has a million questions when they're walking through. One of the biggest blessings of this program too for the missionaries is you actually receive 50% or a hefty discount. Different parts of the country might be different, but here on the East Coast, it's 50% off whatever that 2-bedroom apartment community would be. And it can also be fundraised. So we have several teams, just like you would fundraise to go overseas. They're fundraising their ministry fee, and which puts a little bit more money in their pocket if they invite a resident. I know, like for me and my husband, if we invited a resident to church, we wanted to take them to lunch afterwards. So we wanted to do that active care to bless them, but also just to be able to follow up on the conversation that we have. And so several different opportunities to get plugged in that way as well.
Great. Nicole, we've got about a minute or so. Thank you so much. Highly encouraging. I hope people will reach out to you simply to find out more or to help give, because this is valid ministry to those that are bringing the Lord, that is Lord, who's bringing those that we want to reach here on our shores.
Yeah.
Just one last exhortation for someone who is interested, and give them an encouragement to reach out today and love their neighbor practically.
Yeah, a simple text. A lot of times we feel like we're not close to anybody. A phone call might be super hard, but just texting people and letting them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. You never know how that's going to lead to the next step, or how can I be praying for you? And that really opens up such a different opportunity for us to hear the needs that we can show up and just love people in practical ways.
Nicole Ricchini, thank you so much. Highly encouraging. We will make sure everybody knows how to connect with you. Appreciate what you're doing. And together, we are better because we do missions together to advance the kingdom of God. Thank you again, Nicole.
Thank you so much.